Honeybee Caste Differentiation, created and voiced by Madeline McMillan, Nicholas Olson, Jocelyn Perales, and Taylor Lobb. Our first set of slides focuses on the physiological differences between worker bees, queen bees, and drone bees, such as their body size, their stinger, and their lifespan. Queen bees have a much larger body size, small eyes, and their stinger has been modified into an ovipositor, which allows them to lay eggs. They are fertile compared to the sterile worker bees. They also have mandibular glands which release queen mandibular pheromones, which allow the queen to regulate the functioning of the colony. They also have a much larger lifespan than that of the worker and drone bees, being 2 to 5 years. The worker bees have a much smaller body size. They have small eyes and a functioning stinger. They are also sterile compared to the fertile queen. They have hypopharyngeal glands so that nurse bees are able to feed the larvae and the brood, and wax glands for building new comb. During the summer, workers typically live 2 to 4 weeks, but if they live through the winter, they can live up to 11 months in certain cases.
So next we'll be talking about drones. Drones have a large body size compared to worker bees. They have large eyes compared to both worker and queen bees because they need to be able to see other queens to mate. Drones have no stinger and they are fertile. The lifespan of drones is 4 to 8 weeks, and they cannot live through the winter because if they're still alive by then, that means that they haven't mated and they'll get kicked out of the hive. Next, we'll be talking about developmental differences between the 3 castes, including length of development, the haplodiploid sex determination, and how diet affects caste differentiation. So the queen honeybees take 16 days to develop, which is the shortest amount of time to develop for any of the 3 castes of honeybees. Queen bees are diploid, which means they have 2 sets of chromosomes for a total of 32 chromosomes. According to an article by Beetsma, queen worker differentiation in the honeybee is regulated by the quality of food during the first 3 days of larval life. So diet for a queen bee is very important to differentiate it from a worker bee. The queen bee's food is higher in sugar content, and they also eat more food than worker larvae. Royal jelly is especially important differentiating between queens and workers because royal jelly does not contain a particular kind of regulatory microRNA that is found in bee bread, which worker bees are fed. The microRNA contains regulatory information for workers that regulates gene expression and causes larvae to become workers. Since the queen don't eat bee bread, they don't get this special RNA, and so they will not become workers. However, if a queen larva is fed bee bread after already being fed royal jelly, it's possible that she could become something called a worker queen intercaste, which means that she will be somewhere in between a worker bee and a queen bee.
Now we will talk about worker development. It takes them 21 days to develop. Females are genetically the same, but diets determine their caste differentiation. In the article Recipe for a Busy Honeybee by Gould, they analyzed different types of genetic expression in egg laying, and they have found that the queen fate may perhaps be the default female development program. When you look at other female insects' developmental behaviors, the queen bee's way to development is a lot closer to these, and the production of a specialized sterile worker is very high risk and risky strategy that requires strict regulatory control. These studies suggest that it is the worker program that has to be switched on, and thus that is the prospective worker larva that would need to receive specific nutrition to operate this program. The drone takes 24 days, which is the longest amount of other castes, and drones have 1 set of 16 chromosomes. In the article Signatures of Selection Among Sex-Determining Alleles of the Honeybee by Hasselman, diploid males are observed, and it is determined that they are the result of fertilized eggs that are homozygous at the complementary sex determiner locus CSD. All successfully reproducing males or haploid diploid males produce diploid sperm, which causes sterile offspring, and most of the time honeybee workers will detect a diploid larva and will get rid of them by consuming them. Diploid honeybees not being able to produce offspring hints that heterozygous has a strong advantage and leads to a high expectation of alleles. For Apis mellifera, the estimated number of alleles segregated in different populations ranges from 11 to 19 sex alleles. Next, we will talk about occupational differences like reproduction, foraging, brood rearing, protection, and other odds and ends.
Okay, so on to the queen. The queen quite possibly has the most important jobs in the colony. The queen is the only bee in the hive that can lay fertilized eggs to produce workers. According to National Geographic, in the summer months, queens can lay up to 2,500 eggs a day. The queen also releases pheromones that play a key role in how the colony behaves and even alter the physiology of the other workers. The most well-known of these pheromones is the queen mandibular pheromone, or QMP. According to Butler et al., QMP affects social behavior, maintenance of the hive, swarming, mating behavior, and inhibits the ovary development in worker bees. So on to the workers' occupations. A honeybee worker occupation depends on her age. A honeybee's first job for roughly 2 days after emerging is to clean cells and prepare them for the next egg. Next, during days 3 to 10, the worker attends to the brood and the queen. Nurse bees are responsible for feeding and inspecting the larvae. Workers who tend to the queen allow for the queen's pheromones to be spread throughout the colony by touching the queen, then proceeding to touch other workers. Bees aged 11 to 20 days are called middle-aged bees and perform a variety of tasks. Comb builders produce wax to build the hive. Food processors use trophallaxis to receive nectar from foragers and process it. Hive ventilators control the temperature of the hive by facing towards the hive and flapping their wings outside of it. There are also specialized tasks which middle-aged bees perform. Undertakers remove the dead from the hive, guards protect the hive from predators, and hive cleaners detect and remove diseased or dead larvae. Now on to drones. Drones are created for the sole purpose of reproducing with the unfertilized queen. The queen shows her interest in mating to the drones by releasing pheromones. The drones mate with the queen and empty their sperm supply into her in order to ensure the best chance of reproduction. This causes them to die due to their endophallus detaching from their body after mating. Drones are also attracted to the queen by the remnants of other drones' endophalluses, which show the incoming drones that the queen is prepared to mate.